Today we're going to look at the configuration options of CryptoHopper, the automated trading platform for cryptocurrencies. This is the heart and soul of the platform, and together we can avoid you making any mistakes, which could cost you a lot of money. Before we get started, know that this is the second part of a series of tutorials. If you haven't already, we recommend you subscribe to this channel and also view the previous tutorial. Also, and as a disclaimer, please be advised that any content in this video does not constitute any trading advice and is purely educational. Also, we are not in any way compensated by CryptoHopper for this review. The configuration area is split into the base config, config pools, signals, and triggers. In today's video, we will be focusing on the base config. Once you click on base config, you will see a submenu opening up. You can flip through all the submenus without saving. All modifications will be retained. However, you still have to save before you leave the entire section. Make sure you have the advanced slider enabled. All of these settings can also be saved as a template by choosing this option here. This allows you to play around with different configuration settings for your hopper while retaining previous versions. For this tutorial, we'll be using a so-called paper trader, which is simplified and allows you to set up the hopper without the actual connectivity to the exchange. Now, in the basic settings, let's enter the name of our hopper, and let me just put in tutorial. If this was a real bot connected to the exchange, we would disable live bot. In this case, as we're only trading virtual currency, it doesn't matter. Under exchange, you will see that paper trading is enabled, so no real money will be invested or traded at this point in time. Notifications allow you to get emails about trades or trade errors, something that is particularly useful at the very beginning of a new strategy deployment. However, this can get a bit annoying after a while, so this is where you can enable or disable this functionality. Before we look at the buy settings, let us look at the coins and amounts first. The base currency indicates the currency you are holding your funds in right now. So for example, if you have half a Bitcoin, your base currency will be Bitcoin. However, if you have $5,000, for example, in a USDT currency, then select that accordingly. Once selected, you have to click Change to apply those changes. The next step is to choose the allowed coins. Now, while I understand it may be tempting to choose all the coins, I strongly recommend you only choose coins that have a high market capitalization. Why is that? CryptoHopper will be making trades, sometimes with relatively high frequency and low profit margins. This requires a high degree of liquidity of the currencies you are trading in order for the hopper to be successful. Now, some of the smaller cryptocurrencies with a lower market capitalization may simply not have enough traffic to fill your order, and this could have you lose money. For the purpose of this tutorial, we will select a few common currencies. At the very bottom here, you can establish the maximum amount allocated to this hopper. So if you have 1 Bitcoin, but you only want to allow the hopper to trade half of it, you would insert 0.5 in the maximum BTC amount allocated. Next, you need to decide how many trades you want to have open at the same time. A good rule of thumb at the very beginning is to limit this to 5 or 10, simply because you will want to assess the performance of your strategy and keep some sort of oversight. So if we allocate half a Bitcoin as our overall budget, and we want to allow up to 10 trades at any given point in time, our minimum BTC amount here would be 0.05. If you select to force this minimum buy amount, every order will be opened at that amount. If you set the percentage amount here to 10, you will see that the estimated buy amount is also 0.05 Bitcoin. Once you have completed this section, let's hit save, just so we don't lose any progress in case of session expiring. Now let's go back to the buy settings we skipped earlier. The first option allows you to bid at a price that is lower or higher than the strategy would recommend. For now, we'll leave this blank, as you need to assess the performance of your strategy irrespective of any alterations first. The maximum open time to buy is the amount of minutes that an order will be open before it gets removed. You can leave this at 10 for now. Remember when we talked about the maximum open positions? Well, here is where you can establish that as well, irrespective of the other screen. So let's set this to 10 for now. The maximum percentage open positions per coin establishes the number of positions you can have for each coin pair. You may want to avoid having 9 or 10 positions coming from the same currency pair, and this is also linked to the amount of currencies you're actually planning on trading with. So assuming we want a maximum of 10 open positions and we chose, 5 different currencies, we could establish that the maximum percentage open positions per coin is 20, allowing 2 positions per coin pair open simultaneously at any given point in time. The next selector decides whether you can have, or whether you only want, 1 opened order per coin, or whether you would be willing to allow 2, for example, for the same coin to happen at the same time. Either is fine and depends on your personal setup. For our small setup right now, we would indeed only want 1 order opened per coin at any given point in time. The next option here is probably one of the most important options of the entire hopper. Only buy when there are positive pairs. Now, what does this mean? Essentially, CryptoHopper will stop entering any new trades when there is a massive volatility at the markets, which could result in substantial losses. So a safe bet is to leave 1 day as the time frame of reference. It also has a good explanation here. If enabled, the hopper will only buy coins if there has been a positive change percentage in the last X hours minutes. This is configurable in the next steps. If there are no positive coins, the hopper will not buy with your strategy. The next option, enable cooldown, simply tells the hopper to wait before buying and selling for a specified amount of time. Now for our purposes here, we'll change this to only after buys, and we will set it to 10 minutes as a cooldown period, and to avoid any hectic buying decisions if something happens at the markets. Let's save one more time. Strategy settings is where you decide how the hopper will establish when to buy a currency pair. Now, a strategy can either be your own strategy or that of a third party, as we mentioned earlier. CryptoHopper also offers you the ability to follow signals from third parties, as you can see here on the right. By selecting signals only, all other strategies will be disregarded and disabled. As a word of general caution, only follow signals of people you trust and start with small amounts, just so that you can validate that the signals they are sending are actually working to your benefit. The number of targets to buy right here this essentially indicates how many open orders will be set when the hopper finds pairs or currency pairs that are eligible according to the strategy. For our small setup, I would suggest to leave this at 3 for now. So whenever the hopper finds something, a maximum of 3 orders will be placed. The trailing stop buy option will allow you to track the currency price downwards. So in other words, if your strategy or signal found an entry level point, the enabled option will wait before actually buying that currency. In fact, it will wait so long until the price increases again by the percentage you establish. So let's say the trigger is at $100 for whatever currency and the price keeps falling to 90. Your hopper would only buy once the price increases again by the percentage you establish. If you say 5, for example, it will only buy after the price claws back 5%. For now, let's leave this option disabled. So right after establishing the best price to buy at, you need to establish at what condition do you want to sell. This will largely depend on your trading strategy, of course, but one of the things CryptoHopper is really good at is trading at relatively high frequency. Now for this to work, you need to accept making lots of small profits because you want your trades to close quickly, allowing you to enter new ones straight away. If you plan on holding positions for days or weeks, CryptoHopper may just not be the best tool for you. It will work, it may just not yield the same results. For the sake of this example, let's assume we want to take profit at 2.5%. So whenever we hit the 2.5%, the maximum open time to sell will be 15 minutes. I guess that's fine. And the percentage ask will be 0. Remember, this is the same as on the other screen where we were able to bid lower or higher than the strategy price. In this case, it doesn't make sense to use this because if we wanted to sell at a higher price, we could just increase the percentage profit. All right. Next, the sell strategy acts the opposite way. If you sell based on strategy, positions will be held until the selling condition is met. This can work well, however, it may mean that positions are held for a very long time, depending on the strategy configuration. If buy and sell signals overlap, the assets will be held without opening a sell trade if this option here is selected. For now, we will not activate selling based on strategy. Now, the third most important parameter after price to buy and the price you're willing to sell at is to establish your stop loss. Now, nobody likes to lose money, but if you have to choose between losing 10% or 50%, I'm sure you would agree that 10% is more reasonable. We strongly recommend you always enable a stop loss on any trade you open, ever. For now, let's set this at 10% and just save the settings. You'll see a warning. You have stop loss activated. This could make your hopper sell positions with loss. Yes, that's unfortunately something we'll have to endure. Now the next option here is the trailing stop loss. What this does is that it will activate the stop loss after a certain percentage gain referred to as the arming. So after we gain, 5%, we set the trail to 3. So if it drops by 3 percentage points, then this currency pair will be sold, guaranteeing you a profit of 2%. However, if it then bounces back to 5, you've only materialized the 2%. Also, if your sell strategy or sell settings are to take a profit at 2.5, the 5 arm will never apply because you'll never get there because the sell will be triggered at 2.5. So just bear that in mind. You can use trailing stop loss only, so this will disable the take profit percentage in the sell settings. And if the orders fail, you can set a reset here. And lastly, you can also choose to only sell with a profit. Now, this is tricky because it's great to sell with a profit, but it may mean that you have to hold a position for a long time, and in the meantime you could have sold and repurchased other positions and made up for a potential loss. So we'll disable this for now. Auto close. This is something I don't recommend using, as this will close your position after a certain amount of time, irrespective of the position being positive or negative. The only time I can imagine this making sense is if you trade with a very long and slow pattern changes, and you want to free up slots for new trades to come on in after a certain amount of time. Shorting settings are limited to certain exchanges that support margin trading, such as Kraken.com. We will not be using shorting settings for now, as Binance does not support this right now. The last option is the dollar cost averaging feature. This is quite interesting. This functionality will continue to buy a currency pair that is currently losing in the hope to lower the entry price on average. So if a pair drops by 5%, so that's the DCA set percentage trigger, selecting doubling down here instead of tripling will result in another buy when this condition is met. Now, this will only work if you have enough funds, because obviously it's going to double up the position you already have, so it requires to have the funds for that. We're not going to use this for our purposes right now. Alright, so let's save the configuration one more time, and congratulations, you've completed your very first Hopper config. In the next tutorial, we will be looking at building our first trading strategy. Remember, if you like this video, please show us through a little like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new tutorials. Thank you.